Are you a big picture thinker or detail oriented? I know that sometimes I can get stuck too much in the detail, but I also understand how important the detail is to success. But of course, there's no point focusing on the detail if it doesn't directly contribute to the wider goal. Let's take a look at an example to illustrate the importance of combining both the big picture and the detail, and what can happen when the detail gets overlooked. In 1962, JFK delivered his famous "We choose to go to the moon" speech. This was the ultimate big picture, the inspirational view that captured the public's imagination and gave the space program impetus. Kennedy had outlined his vision to the nation, and with it, a clear objective: to reach the moon by the end of the decade. That objective was met on the 20th of July 1969, when Neil Armstrong took those historic first steps on the moon and uttered those immortal words. Over the following decade, the Apollo program was replaced by the Space Shuttle, and with it, space exploration became more routine and uneventful. To the watching public, the risks and dangers associated with space exploration had reduced, and their interest began to wane. NASA knew they had to do something to rekindle the public's imagination. Their solution? To put the first school teacher into space. As the launch date approached, the public's imagination was revitalised. School children across the country would be glued to TVs in their classrooms, and later viewing figures estimated that 60 million Americans had watched the launch live. The renewed interest meant NASA were under huge pressure to launch the mission, especially as unseasonably cold weather at Cape Canaveral had already delayed the launch once. NASA were desperate for it to go ahead second time so as not to lose the public momentum they'd built up. However, the critical O-rings that sealed the rocket's fuel tanks and needed to respond to huge pressure changes during launch were not designed to operate at such low temperatures. Engineers at the third party who manufactured the O-rings tried desperately to escalate their concerns that this critical component would not operate successfully in such a cold environment. And while senior peers at their organisation understood the concerns, they eventually caved to the immense pressure put on them by NASA and ultimately gave a go for launch decision. The following day, Challenger launched into the clear but cold Florida sky. It looked like they got away with it. However, 70 seconds after launch, as the rockets fired another boost sequence, the O-rings failed catastrophically, causing the fuel tanks to break up, and the shuttle, together with its crew, were doomed. The subsequent inquiry found a disregard of warnings by NASA from engineers about the highlighted dangers and a failure to escalate these concerns to their superiors. The relative detail in this case had fatefully been overlooked, despite the stark warnings from those most qualified to offer an informed opinion. So next time you're working on a project, it's always worth remembering that it's the big picture goals that will get you off the ground, but all too often, ignoring the relative detail can bring you crashing back to earth again with catastrophic consequences.